again, as today I'm going to be taking a look at May's release from the Big Finish main range. Apologies that this review has been a little bit delayed. If you're a viewer of the Series 10 videos, you'll of course know I did go away for a little bit due to exams and other things like that, meaning that everything's sort of been pushed back a little bit, Big Finish reviews included. I did do a review of spare parts to sort of cover over the time that I was away, but other than that, all of the recent stuff that has been released has sort of been in a bit of a backlog, and the same for the stuff that's going to be coming out in the future as well. So yeah, a little bit of a delay, but hopefully we'll get there eventually. In more positive and happy news, the 6th Doctor and Flip are back, one of my favourite Doctor-companion relationships ever, even though that I don't really know much of the era of the 6th Doctor and Flip. I know there's a few adventures that I have of course missed that I need to go back and listen to at some point. However, from what I've seen, they just have something about them that I really like and actually makes it one of my favourite relationships that have ever been in Doctor Who, because of the sheer difference between the Doctor and the companion. Anyway, as per usual, in the description below I will leave the link to go and buy this release from the Big Finish website. It is out now. It is the May release from the Big Finish main range. The main reason why I'm saying that is in case if editing is delayed even further, and by the time this goes out it may in fact be June. So yeah, this is the May release. It is $14.99 for the physical CD and $12.99 for the download version. Technical details, of course this release is the second edition of the brand new format that we've currently got going on with the Big Finish main range that started with the previous release of Alien Heart Dalek Soul, basically where we have two writers on board and they're basically making two separate stories. However, the running time is still exactly the same to your standard Big Finish main range story, which I've just realised is an excellent jumping on point for new series fans that are yet to get into Big Finish, because I do always say that the Big Finish main range is quite long-winded. One story can last up to 2 hours because we have 4 25-minute parts. However, with this we do of course have two stories that are split across 1 hour episodes, meaning that it is a little bit more gaugeable for those people that are used to the new series format. Episode 1 is Vortex Ice and it is written by Jonathan Morris, and then episode 2 is Cortex Fire, written by Ian Potter, and the whole thing is directed by Ken Bentley. Moving on to more of the cast details, of course we have Colin Baker as the 6th Doctor, and we all know what's coming. He once again was absolutely excellent for this story. I honestly can't fault the 6th Doctor. I think there wasn't really anything to stand out for this episode that really made me think, whoa, I love this Doctor. I just think we have that consistency once again throughout of having the 6th Doctor just being the 6th Doctor. We have sort of brought on those characteristics from the TV series, however, made him more likeable at the same time. That is very much prominent for this story. Both of the stories, I should say. I'll definitely say more so in part 1, because we essentially have two Colin Bakers, 6 Doctors at the same time, which is literally my dream come true. And then moving on to the companion, of course we have Lisa Greenwood as Flip. Once again, just constant compliments for Flip. I think that Flip is a companion that is much different to every other companion that we have on Big Finish. I think that by this point she may be a little bit older from what we normally see. I think that she normally plays around the 18 to 20 age region, because she's got something about her that is very childlike. However, she is slowly developing. I love the way that the Doctor is showing her the world and showing her the universe, and she is in fact learning from this, and she is definitely sort of, I'll class her as the most new series a companion has ever got with the classic series. I always describe Flip as if Rose Tyler was done right. I just think that she is incredibly brilliant. Lisa Greenwood honestly brings something to Flip that makes me sort of, every single time she has like her innocent little quirks about different things. She is an incredibly fun companion. As I say, the relationship that she has with Colin and the 6th Doctor is just such a lovable one, and I love the way that we almost have a little bit of that Clara Doctor bond where the Doctor is sort of her teacher in a way, and even more so maybe a bond much like Bill and the 12th Doctor that we currently have going on at the moment. And going to the other cast for this story, I'm just going to go through everybody stretching across Vortex Ice and Cortex Fire. We have Sabu Kapoor, who plays Cyan Copra, Orlando Seal, who plays Dylan Argent, Monty Dill Iveno, who plays Janek Wolf, Rebecca Todd, who plays Corolia, Simon Dylan Kane, who plays Hollis, Eve Webster, who plays Bav/Cortex/Enforcer, and then we have other people who played by the cast, just general others. But yeah, I think that the main thing with this one is the fact of everybody except the two main protagonists are in fact completely new to Big Finish. So it's nice to see a lot of new names in there. Literally everybody is new, so it's good to see a very big stretch in talent for this one. So unlike the previous story where we had Dalek Soul, Alien Heart, there was sort of a little bit of a link between the two stories, or at least it wasn't a direct link. They of course both had Daleks in. They were essentially sort of a two-part story in a way, unofficially. However, the odd thing with this one is something that I definitely didn't expect. These are essentially two separate stories. Even though they sound similar, they are literally completely different. They have a few themes though, however, that are prominent throughout both releases, such as the way that we have sort of the idea of life and death, things like that. The the way that we have sort of certain elements that are played with as well, and generally the soundtrack, all of the cast, the alien threat, everything is completely different. So it is a rather unusual thing. However, it sort of brings in the idea of the much quicker paced format that is more similar to that of the Fourth Doctor adventures, which I think once again is a great way to introduce new people to the classic Doctors on the audio format. Firstly, going on to Vortex Ice, written by Jonathan Morris. Once again, this episode, it starts off being one of those predictable ones. However, it gets so much more complicated halfway through. I think the way that we have this story, it sort of balances out those older techniques and brings in newer ones as well. The Sixth Doctor and Flip for this one have definitely an odd relationship. I think the Sixth Doctor almost takes a back seat because Flip, it's sort of from her perspective, she definitely has a big learning curve for this story because it is essentially a very timey-wimey one. Even though I say this is a very good format to get into Big Finish with, I would definitely say Vortex Ice is one of those ones that is rather complicated because, as I say, we do essentially have 2 Sixth Doctors and 2 Flips. All the rest of the cast luckily do remain in the same time stream, so we don't have duplicates of them. However, it can get a little bit complicated between what Doctor is what Flip is what, and things like that, as well as the plot itself is generally a very timey-wimey one. I'm going to use that phrase because even though it's a new series phrase, it's one of which that Colin uses in the behind the scenes, so if Colin uses it, it's okay to use. But yeah, I think that is the thing with this one. It is a very timey-wimey script. The thing about having this timey-wimey script is the fact that it is complicated. However, it isn't really too up itself. It's one of those ones that is essentially, you need to sit back, listen to it and enjoy it. It needs its full attention there. You need to be fully engaged within the story. And honestly, it's not one of those ones that goes on to say, look how amazing I am, which it could be something that you can refer to with new series scripts to an extent when it tries to do something massive, such as Series 6 as a whole, to be honest, where we have all that plot in there relating to Amy and Rory. However, with this one, it is generally complicated, but for its own good. The elements in there all pay off in the end, and the main thing that I want to focus on with this release is the learning curve that Flip has. We definitely have sort of the whole perspective of this story from Flip. That then returns in the next story as well, where we have sort of the Doctor wanting to see the universe. I do believe she quotes through his eyes, and I think that is just excellent the way that that is done, and definitely a good message for a Doctor and companion relationship. The way that we have that you can't rewrite history, not one line, a quote from the First Doctor, of course. However, it's played with definitely with the story, the way that we have Flip experiencing essentially the same event twice. You have the Sixth Doctor relying on her to say, what do I do next now? What do I need to do in the next sort of time stream in the future? What do I do by this point? And these constant questions is definitely very much a lot of pressure on Flip. And the way that we see different people die, essentially Flip has to direct the Doctor to this certain place, knowing full well that a certain member of the expedition team will essentially be killed. However, she has to stick by this event because it's what actually happens, and by doing so, the whole of the time stream continues to be the same. And I think that Flip definitely feels by this point a lot of pressure. So just think generally, this is a perfect example of the way to show a companion this is the universe, and this is the things that the Doctor needs to put up with on a day-to-day basis, the way that timey-wimey things happen and there's nothing that you can do about it. There is also sort of this alien robotic octopus thing in this story, which that's what I'm sort of going to describe it as. It's called Vortex Ice, that freezes the Doctor and Flip within this story, and they need to sort of have events and make sure that certain events happen to sort of fulfill different things. It is rather complicated and something of which I can't really explain too well. However, it basically has the Sixth Doctor being in the same time period and sort of saving himself in a way. We do essentially have two TARDIS. Well, you have the same TARDIS, and then the Doctor saving the Doctor, Flip helping the other Flip, and Flip talking to the other Flip as well. It's just a very odd story. However, as I say, it's one of those ones that unusually needs to have multiple viewings in order to understand it properly, and that is not the bad thing because you get to respect it more from that. And I think that is a good example of a strong script, and once again, I do fully trust Jonathan Morris with scripts like this because he has done stuff like this in the past. I just rely on him because I know that he can pull things off quite well. Ian Potter, which is a complete juxtaposition compared to that of the previous story. Being in a mine, this one is on a planet far, far away where the Doctor takes Flip to this event where he wants to go to this opera house, and we have the equivalent of the star exploding in the far future, and it creates sort of the northern lights in a way, however on a much bigger and grander scale. And once again, much like usual, when the Doctor wants to take a companion somewhere to see this amazing lovely thing, general surroundings of the planet get in the way and issues happen. This time we have the idea of a Cortex sort of threatening the whole of the planet. Once again, it does bring some of those elements in there from the previous story, story where we have that much sort of average plot. However, by the very end of it, it adapts it into something of its own right, where technology has developed. We have these floating cars. It is a very nice sort of, I would like to say, picturesque sort of, I mean, imaginative picturesque, because it isn't with it being an audio drama, but I think that the way that the alien planet has in fact sort of been picturized in this one was done really well, considering once again, I think that it's stunning the way that we have in this story. Of course, in any other Big Finish story, it's audio, you can't see it, the dialogue isn't anything too cliche, like, oh look over there, Doctor, a car that is silver with red lines going down it. You know, it's not exactly directly describing things that it is too obvious of the fact that it's audio. It's just done so well, and that is something that once again is applied to a lot of different Big Finish audio dramas. We have sort of a few terrorism elements within this script, the way that we have the Cortex imagining this terroristic sort of group and organisation that are wanting to wreck everything, and that is what's being blamed for setting people on fire, when in reality it is in fact the technology and the Cortex doing so, which I think is quite a dark plot. The way that we have these people that aren't really too based around technology is very odd, because we have this organisation that are there and they have floating cars and everything like that. However, they don't really have much of a sort of concern or really aim to go into space. They are very sort of confined to themselves. The unusual thing with this story is, on first listen you sort of understand it and think, yeah, fair dues, that was the plot, this is what happened. However, once again, much like Vortex Ice, I think that you need to re-listen to this one once again to fully understand it and appreciate it. I think a planet called Festin that sort of relies on this big supercomputer called the Cortex, one that is in fact actually responsible for all the terrorism going on and the spontaneous combustion, is quite dark, and I think that ideas like this wouldn't really be able to be done in the TV show, of course, having people set on fire. Once again, Flip gets in a little bit of trouble. She goes up to where one of the people are spontaneously combusting, and she once again is sort of put there first in frame with this person that is on fire. She needs to try and save the other person by getting into this bathroom with a shower and things to stop the fire sort of going near them. And once again, there is sort of, I do believe, something like the building explodes or something like that, and they're protected by the shower and sort of the bath area. But definitely over the duration of these two stories, she does get a little bit of battering here and there, and I think it's fair to say that, as I said, this whole two-parter has a little bit of a learning curve for Flip. It turns out that the big star that the Doctor wants to witness exploding to see these beautiful lights on the planet, in fact, is going to affect the planet that they are on, and it's going to burn through everywhere and basically kill absolutely everybody on the planet. And of course, that is not a good thing. It's not meant to happen. The Cortex is in fact making that happen, or wants to make that happen. He does that at the very end to in fact save everybody on the planet. Is once again a little bit of a new series thing, where a lot of time has passed involving the Doctor, and by the very end of the story, the Doctor is in fact physically affected by what happens, where even Flip sort of says, you look a little bit older. And the way that Flip in fact can see this within the Doctor, even though theoretically he is the same person, it shows the relationship that they have. And I love stories like this, because by the very end of it, when they just leave and the Doctor wants to take Flip somewhere once again, it shows that something has physically happened. The duration of both of these stories, Flip has been affected and the Doctor has been affected as well, showing that there has been an actual impact on the two protagonists. And I think that that is the way to show that two really solid plots do in fact work very well together. Jonathan Morris at the very end of Vortex Ice in fact has that ending clip where the Doctor wants to take Flip somewhere else, and it does in fact go, I know, I'll take you too, and then it just cuts out once again, much like how it did at the end of Revelation of the Daleks. It's a very nice nod to Revelation of the Daleks, of course, when they were unsure if that episode was in fact ever going to happen, so they cut it very abruptly at the end of Revelation of the Daleks. It doesn't really mean anything for this story, it's just a really nice little novelty nod there to the Sixth Doctor era on TV, and as I say, bonus points for in fact making me giggle by the end of that story, because it was a very nice way to end it. Overall for this story, I think it will be fair to say that I went into this one expecting something that I didn't come out with, and I think that that is definitely a good thing. I love the way that both of the protagonists are in fact impacted on by the very end of both of the episodes, and I think that it definitely puts the Doctor and Flip into situations that have got a bit of risk behind them, and a little bit, as I say, of something that does in fact affect them in the long run by the very end of the story. I love the way that both of them aren't in fact connected in any way as well. I love the way that we have both of those learning curves, and I think that the general theme going throughout of having having that life and death scenario in there does work incredibly well. And as I say, if you're somebody that is used to sort of more complicated scripts, this may be something for you, especially with Vortex Ice. However, the new series style plot of having those 1 hour stories is something that very much would be welcome to that of a new series fan that wants to get into the Big Finish monthly range, however is daunted by the longer 2 hour format, as I say, having it being split completely down the middle. So generally it's not the best story in the world, but I just think the relationship that Flip and the Sixth Doctor have alone really do set this release above the others, because I think it has something about it that is quite individual and definitely makes me want to go back and see more of the Sixth Doctor and Flip to see what else they get up to, because it's just nice to see them both back together. And once again, this builds up my hopes for the future releases coming later this year with Constance Clark and Flip once again when they're reunited, so I'm very much looking forward to them. Of course I am, because it's the Sixth Doctor, and yet generally it's just got some Sixth Doctor brilliance in there that I just know and love. That's that. As I said at the start of this review, I will leave the link in the description below to go and buy this release from the Big Finish website, and I guess I will see you all in the next review whenever that will be. Big Finish wise coming up, we've got Unit Assembled and a few other releases here and there which are looking incredibly exciting, as well as Series 10 reviews here and there as well, hopefully getting up to date on those. If you want to know more information, just follow me on my social media. So thanks for watching this review. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a big like, please subscribe if you're not already. If you've got any questions, please do leave them below and I'll be sure to answer them at some point in the near future. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. So thanks for watching and bye for now.